one of the coaches that had been recruiting me was in Santa Barbara. He said, and one of his coaching spiels was, you can go home and do your laundry today, and you can go have meals with your mom. And I thought
that you stay in the neighborhood.
That you stay in the neighborhood, and you can be even more of a burden. And he didn't think about it this way, but I thought I would come home and have her do my laundry. I would come home and have her make meals for me. Yeah. And I decided at that point I should go to Gonzaga. And she didn't tell me to grow up, but I knew at that point that I needed to be a different kind of young man. I just needed to be a different kind of young. And I knew that this was going to be hard, that she would give me her blessing, but I needed to get up and go and come back different. So thank you for reading that with such care, because that was a hard and moving moment. And so I think what I said at that point was I didn't feel shame, but I felt a sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
And
I could sense that when I was reading it too. Like it was an inflection point for you. Like,
it was an inflection
I'm not a
point.
kid anymore. Right. I have to change my life, kind of.
And I looked out the window, and the grass was like up to my waist, and I pulled the corn on the lawnmower, and the lawnmower started. And I thought, dude, like, you got to start doing some things here. You got to figure this out. So yeah.
Yeah, there were several instances in the book where I noticed a pattern where you didn't want to tell your mom things. Even back to when you were being racially profiled at Sears, you didn't want to tell your mom. You even met Michael Jackson, and you were like, I didn't tell my mom. And I was like, no, why wouldn't you tell your mom you met Michael Jackson?
That was wild.
Right? And then even all the way into adulthood, when you and Sue separated, you didn't even want to tell your mom you were going through that.
No.
And so I wanted to ask, where did that come from? Did that come from seeing how she didn't burden you with her emotional problems and you not wanting to do the same? Or was there something else?
You read that perfectly, Brad. You read that perfectly. Part of the tension for me in writing this was, James Baldwin talks about just coming to terms with the truth. And he's talking about the personal truth of who we are and how we got here. But he's also talking about the truth of the nation, like get to the truth. And he's referring to Ecclesiastes also, that if we're off on the wrong path and then begin again, but get to the truth of what it means to be a human being in this, the truth of our biases, the truth of how we are as a nation. But on the other hand, there's Toni Morrison, who says, we conceal some of those truths, in part in the Black community, because we want to preserve our dignity. Right? We don't want to always be out there talking about sort of suffering and stuff. And we want to protect our children's dignity as well. So in some ways, my mother, there's some stories that she would not tell me and did not tell me. She tried to conceal. And it wasn't until I was actually post-college, I think it was assistant professor. I just started here, and I went home with my daughter and to surprise her, and sat at the table that I had sat at for so many years, and the table that Miss Jackson had sat at. And I said, Mom, I think you need to tell me some things.
Yeah.
I think you need to tell me some truths. And she did. She did reluctantly. I flew back to Seattle, and as soon as I got into my house in Seattle, the phone was ringing. She called, and she said, I'm sorry for telling those stories. And she felt like she said, I've loved your father. I don't want you to think poorly of him. I shouldn't have told you those stories. I said, Mom, for us to be able to live with the truth, you can trust me now with that truth. And I think in some ways, Brett, I was doing the same thing. I didn't want to keep her up at night. If I had told her that we were in downtown Spokane and that officers had come and with weapons prepared, had taken me back to campus, I don't think she would have come and got me. I think she would have stayed awake at night.
Yeah.
I don't think she would have been at peace. And I didn't need her to have that burden.